ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे तयो श्रित्वा प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः। नमः श्रीयतिराजाय विवेकानन्दसूरये सच्चित्सुखस्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे। So today is the Janma Tithi of Bhagavan Sri Shankaracharya, who established or re-established Hindu Dharma on a very solid foundation based on the Vedas. So Hindu Dharma is actually Vedic Sanatana Dharma, which is based on the universal truths discovered by our rishis and are revealed in our Shruti, the Vedas. Shankaracharya was born in a village called Kaladi in Kerala in a Brahmin family, and this was discovered only 2 centuries ago by Nrisimha Bharati, the Shankaracharya of Sringeri Mutt, who was the guru of Chandrasekhara Bharati. He decided to exactly locate this village called Kaladi, and he found that there were around 3 villages called Kaladi in Kerala. And to locate exactly, as the scriptures say, the village where he was born was near the Purna river. So when Nrisimha Bharati came to this village and he was taking rest at night, in a dream he heard a female voice telling him that I am here. And when he searched, he found that the samadhi of Shankara's mother, Aryamba, was being maintained by a family for centuries, and hence his home, the ancestral home, was located. And there at present, the Sringeri Mutt has one of its branches over there, and they conduct their Vedic studies for brahmacharis and sadhus. Next to that is our Ramakrishna Mutt in Kaladi. So those who visit our Kaladi ashrama are fortunate to have darshan of the Sringeri Mutt, the birthplace of Shankaracharya also. So it is said that the parents of Shankaracharya, they were yearning for a son for a long time. They didn't have a child. So both of them from Kaladi, they travelled to Trishur, Vadakumnathan temple or Shiva temple, and prayed to Lord Shiva for a child. And accordingly, they were blessed with a male child who was from his very young age so sharp and so intelligent that he could master the Vedas at the age of 6 itself. And he could recite all the difficult texts of the Vedas and even tell its meaning. So that kind of intelligence was never seen in any child. And even the king was very much impressed and wanted to give him a place in his palace to teach Vedas. But of course, Shankara declined that, as he understood that without a guru, no learning can be complete. What he had learnt intellectually had to be realized with the help of guru who has already realized the truth, a Brahmajnani. And he heard that such a Brahmagyani was staying at Omkareshwar, Govinda Padacharya, and he traveled at the age of 8 itself. Shankaracharya traveled from Kerala to Omkarnath, which is one of the Jyotirlingas, and there he met his guru, Govinda Padacharya. At the age of 8, he was just a child. Of course, his mother protested a lot that even his father had passed away at the age of 5 when he was just 5 years old. So his mother wanted him to be with her, but he promised his mother that during your last days I will come back. And this promise he kept. When she was in her deathbed, Shankaracharya came after many years and served his mother in her last days and kept his promise. Because he had come with a divine mission. So at the age of 8, he went to his guru, and for 3 years he stayed with Govinda Padacharya and learned the intricacies of Vedas and Vedanta and experienced the Nirvikalpa Samadhi or identity of his Atman with the universal consciousness called Brahman. This experience is what makes Shankaracharya the greatest guru, because that experience of Brahman, as stated in the Vedas, Ekameva Advitiyam Brahma Neha Nanasti Kinchana. Brahman is one without a second. Whatever diversity we are experiencing and the various jivas we are seeing in this world are only manifestations of Brahman, just as waves in the ocean. Brahman is that Satchidananda ocean, ocean of existence, consciousness, bliss, in which the waves of various worlds and jivas appear and disappear. So being one with that ocean, experiencing that oneness of Jiva and Brahman is what is stated in our Vedas, and based on that Shankaracharya established his philosophy of Advaita Vedanta. So as he completed his studies under Govinda Padacharya and experienced Nirvikalpa Samadhi himself, his guru instructed him that you have come for a divine mission, and that is to re-establish Hindu Dharma. Why was this re-establishment necessary? Is because India was that time completely under Buddhist control, and that Buddhism had degraded to a very, very low level. Buddha came when the Vedic Dharma it was around in the 5th century BC, when the Vedic Dharma entered to such a stage that they were just doing Karma Kanda and they had forgotten the Jnana Kanda. And they were doing rituals, yagas and yajnas to such an extent, sacrifices of animals were going on throughout India, and the real knowledge of the Upanishads was forgotten. So for Buddha, it was necessary that he has to go out of the way to tell that knowledge and realization is more important than all these rituals. And for that, he had to give up the Vedic Dharma. He didn't mind for all these rituals. He directly said that you have to realize the truth through meditation and ethical living, right living and right meditation and all this eightfold path that he taught. And after 3 centuries, around 3rd century BC, when Emperor Ashoka became the Emperor of India, he took to Buddhism and he spread Buddhism throughout India and to other neighboring countries as well. So Buddhism became the main religion of India during that time. And under the patronship of all these kings, so many viharas were established in India in every state. And these viharas were all Buddhism was mainly a monastic religion, and all those who are being part of the viharas had to take sannyasa, and they were entering into the viharas, and thousands of viharas and thousands, lakhs of monks and nuns were staying in these viharas, and many of them were not qualified for that. And in the passing of centuries, it degraded to a very low level when Buddhism got mixed up with the tantras of India and they started practicing Vamachara. And hence, Indian religion, the Vedic religion, was completely forgotten. During that time, just before Shankara, another great teacher came whose name was Kumarila Bhatta. And what he did, he was very much devoted to Vedas, but of course he was a Mimamsaka. Means he was more interested in Karma Kanda than in Jnana Kanda, but he had the whole knowledge of Vedas and he himself was a realized soul. But to defeat Buddhism or the later schools of Buddhism, which were called Yogachara and Madhyamika, especially the school of Madhyamika was established by Nagarjuna, and his philosophy was called Shunyavada, was so strong that he had by his logic defeated all other schools like Sankhya, Nyaya, Mimamsa, Vaisheshika, Yoga, all schools he had defeated, and he had established his philosophy of Shunyavada. So Kumarila Bhatta, he wanted to defeat this Buddhism, Shunyavada. What he did is, as a student, he joined one of the Buddhist monasteries and learned under a teacher called Dharmapala. All the logic of Buddhism he learned from them and he came out. And later on, he wrote his own philosophy and he went and defeated Dharmapala. In this way, he established the Vedika Dharma, but it was Mimamsa Dharma. That is the mainly ritualistic Karma Kanda. But what happened, he had a lot of guilt that he learnt it from his guru, and when he defeated his guru, either his guru has to become his disciple or he has to take Agni Samadhi, and his guru gave up his body. So that guilt was there in Kumarila Bhatta, and he himself decided that I will also give up my body in fire by taking Agni Samadhi. It was at this period that Shankaracharya, after his studies, he came to Kashi, and from Kashi he went to Badrikashrama. He wrote his philosophies along with his disciples, mainly Padmapada. And after the philosophy was written, mainly the bhashyas for the Prasthanatraya, including the 10 principal Upanishads, then Bhagavad Gita and Brahma Sutras or Vedanta Sutras written by Badarayana, Vyasa. So he wrote a thorough commentary and made a complete structure of this philosophy of Advaita Vedanta. So first person he had to defeat or convince was Kumarila Bhatta. If Kumarila Bhatta is convinced, the whole North India will come under his sway. So from Badrikashrama he came down where Kumarila Bhatta was staying in Prayagraj, or at present which was called Allahabad. And there when he came to Kumarila Bhatta, he found that Kumarila Bhatta was about to take Agni Samadhi. And he showed his written scriptures to him. Just by going through it, Kumarila Bhatta understood that this is not an ordinary person. This is a great soul who has come with this highly profound philosophy, which is the real import of the Vedas. But Kumarila Bhatta said that as I am going to take Agni Samadhi, I have no time to help you. you should go to my chief disciple who was Mandana Mishra and you have to do the tarka with him. And Shankaracharya traveled to this place called Mahishmati near Omkarnath, where Mandana Mishra was staying. And Mandana Mishra was also a Karmakandi, but he was also highly learned in the Vedas. But the main philosophy of Mimamsa was that unless you pass through the Karma Kanda, unless you have mastered and practiced the Karma Kanda for a long time, you are not fit or eligible for studying the Jnana Kanda, which is Upanishads. But Shankaracharya's philosophy says that whoever has that right Viveka and Vairagya and has moksha as the only goal is fit for study of the Upanishads. So, Shankaracharya went into a deep argument with Mandana Mishra, and Mandana Mishra's wife, Ubhaya Bharati, who was also highly learned, she was appointed as the judge. And this argument went on for days together, and finally Mandana Mishra had to accept defeat. Ubhaya Bharati declared that Shankara's philosophy is much higher and established in the truth, which Mandana also has to accept. So Mandana became his disciple, took sannyasa from Shankaracharya and became Sureshwaracharya. And this Sureshwaracharya, along with Shankara, came to Karnataka, where at Sringeri they established their first matha. And Sureshwaracharya was made the head of this Sringeri Matha. And Shankaracharya also established Dashanami Sampradaya, Sannyasa Sampradaya, which consists of this titles. 10 different titles were given to sannyasins, like Saraswati, Bharati, Puri, Giri, Tirtha, Parvata, Sagara, Vana, Aranya, etc. And 3 titles, Saraswati, Bharati and Puri, comes under the Sringeri Matha. So as Sri Ramakrishna took sannyasa diksha from Tota Puri, so this Puri Sampradaya, under Puri Sampradaya only, the Ramakrishna order of sannyasa also comes under Puri Sampradaya. So our Matha is also Sringeri Matha. And other main disciples of Shankaracharya were Padmapadacharya, who was sent to Puri in Odisha to establish the Govardhana Matha. And Totakacharya was sent to the Jyotir Matha near Badrikashrama. And Hasta Malakacharya was sent to the Sharda Matha of Dwaraka. So these 4 principal mathas with 4 different Vedas. So our Sringeri Matha, the Upanishad, main Upanishad is Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which comes in the Yajur Veda. And for Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Sureshwaracharya, who was the Acharya of Sringeri Matha, wrote an elaborate commentary on, first of all, Shankaracharya wrote a Bhashya on Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which itself is one whole volume. And Sureshwaracharya wrote commentary which is called Vartika, Sureshwara Vartika, on Shankara Bhashya, which comes to around 10 volumes. So it is a huge work. Their whole life they had dedicated to establish this Vaidika Sanatana Dharma on a very solid basis. And Shankaracharya also found that in India, even though everyone belongs to Hindu Dharma, everyone has their own Ishta Devata. Like Shaivas worship Shiva, Vaishnavas worship Vishnu, Shaktas worship Devi or Shakti, and others, Shauryas worship Surya, and Ganapatyas worship Ganesha, and here in South India they worship Kumara or Kartikeya. So and they were always fighting against each other. Shaivas are constantly fighting against Vaishnavas, and they say that our God alone is true. So, to bring all these different sampradayas under one fold, under the Vaidika Sanatana Dharma, Shankaracharya said that as Vedas say that Brahman alone is the ultimate reality, and it is one without a second, ekameva advitiyam. So all different deities are manifestations of that one Brahman, Satchidananda, whose real nature is Satchit Ananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. And therefore, what Shaivas call Shiva is Satchitananda Shiva. So Satchidananda is the real nature of Shiva. Similarly, Satchidananda is the real nature of Vishnu and of Shakti and of Ganesha and of Kumara and of Surya, all. So he established Shanmata Sthapana. What he did is that all these sampradayas, before worshipping their own Ishtadevata, they should worship all these 6 deities. Shiva, Vishnu, Shakti or Devi, then Ganesha, Surya and Kumara. All of them you worship together, and finally you worship your own Ishtadevata. Your Ishtadevata you consider Brahman himself, and you devote yourself completely to your Ishtadevata, but you do not criticize any other sampradaya, any other Ishtadevata. According to the nature of the devotee, God reveals himself in so many forms. So it is one. Ekam Sat, as Rigveda says, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. It is one God, one Brahman, which is the truth, and sages call him by different names. So names and forms are secondary. The real nature is Brahman, which is one without a second. And the whole philosophy of Shankaracharya, he stated in just half a shloka, that Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Napara. Brahman alone is real, or the permanent eternal substance, and the world or universe which we experience in whatever levels is only an impermanent or anitya vastu. Brahman alone is the nitya vastu, satya, and jagat is anitya, and hence jiva is none other than Brahman. So this is also established in the Mahavakyas of the Vedas, like Ayam Atma Brahma. Mandukya Upanishads of Atharva Veda says, this Atman itself is Brahman. Ayam Atma Brahma. Chandogya Upanishad of Samaveda says, Tat Tvam Asi. You are that. And Brihadaranyaka Upanishad of Yajurveda says, Aham Brahmasmi. And Aitareya Upanishad of Rig Veda says, Prajnanam Brahma. This consciousness, pure consciousness is Brahman. So all these Mahavakyas from the Vedas clearly say that Jiva has no separate individuality. Its existence is fully dependent on Brahman. Hence, Jiva is in its pure essence is not separate from Brahman. Jivo Brahmaiva Napara. So this Tattvamasi, it cannot be taken literally. Of course, when a Jiva is identified with the body cannot be said to be equal to Ishvara. Ishvara is the Saguna Brahma, who is the creator, preserver and destroyer of the universe. And Jiva, which is identified with the body, cannot be equal to Ishvara. Hence, when we say Tat Tvam Asi, it is not literal. Tat, which is God or Brahman, has to be investigated. The real nature of Tat and Tvam, what is the real nature of this I? When we say Aham Brahmasmi, this ego is not Brahman. Ego is the jiva identified with the body. But the real nature of the jiva, which is behind this body-mind complex, is pure consciousness, Shuddha Chaitanyam, and it is the same Sat Chit Ananda. Hence, this jiva is equal to Brahman only in its real essence as Sat Chit Ananda. So, what Shankaracharya said is that Advaita Vedanta has no fighting with any other sampradayas. The philosophy that he established, he said all sampradayas come under the fold of Advaita, because Advaita is a Vedika sampradaya which says that Brahman alone is real. And all sampradayas, they accepted that yes, Brahman alone is real. But there is slight differences, like later on, Vishishta Advaita of Ramanujacharya said that of course Brahman alone is real and Jiva is a part of Brahman. So Brahman is the whole and Jiva is a part. So this is a particular view of that ultimate reality. When we are identified ourselves with our mind as Jiva, and when we are identified with our body, we are in the Dvaita level, as the philosophy of Madhvacharya says, that I am the servant of God. So as long as we are identified with our body, as Sri Ramakrishna also used to quote shloka of Hanuman, what Hanuman said when Rama asked him, how do you look at me? Hanuman said, Deha buddhya dasosmi. When I am identified with my body, I am your servant and you are my Lord. So this is the Dvaita. And when in deep meditation, we realize that we are not the body and we are the Jiva, which is mainly the mind and ego. That time our realization is that I am the part and God is the whole. Jiva buddhya tvadan shakaha. This is Vishishta Advaita. And Atma buddhya, when I realize that I am the Atman, Satchidananda Atman, then I realize that Atma buddhya todevaham, I am one with you. That is Advaita. So these three are different levels of realization. But no philosophy can state what the ultimate reality is. It is avang manasa gocharam. The example can be given like when we are looking out from the ground floor of a building, we are able to see a particular area. And that is the reality for us at that moment. When we go to the first floor, we are able to see a much more bigger area. And when we go to the second floor, from there also we are able to see much bigger area. But what happens when we go to the terrace? That cannot be defined. Because when you enter it into Brahman, you do not exist. The ego has merged in Brahman, so there is no one to state what that experience is. Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of a salt doll that went to measure the depth of the ocean. But when that salt doll enters into the ocean, it merges into the ocean. So who will come and tell what that experience is? So what Brahmajnana is, what the experience of Brahman is, that nobody can say. So the philosophy of Advaita is also the closest to that explanation. The reality, highest reality, which is Brahman, can never be explained, can never be put into words. So Advaita is also the closest to that reality. Because we need some pointers to reach that reality. So hence, the philosophy and the sadhana of a particular Vaidika sampradaya is only a pointer. It gives the path to that reality. But what that reality is, that has to be experienced. Hence it is said, Brahma Veda Brahmaiva Bhavati. One who realizes Brahman, he becomes Brahman. So the knowledge of Brahman is not an intellectual knowledge. It is an experiential knowledge of being one with Brahman, and it cannot be put into words. Only one who has realized it knows what it is. So that was Shankara's philosophy, and he said that this needs the 3 steps of Shruti, Yukti and Anubhava. First, you should have deep Shraddha in the Shruti, the Vedas. As Gita also says, Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. A deep faith into the Vedas, Shruti, and the Acharya, the Guru who is teaching you the Veda should be there. And then you have to apply your Yukti, your reasoning. It is not that you have to give up your reasoning. You take reasoning to the utmost level till where your intellectual reasoning can go. And then finally you surrender to the Lord, and that divine grace will reveal that knowledge to you. So Shruti, Yukti and finally Anubhava. You realize it, experience it, and that is the ultimate knowledge. And in the philosophy of Shankara, we always find Shankaracharya is telling that without jnana, there cannot be mukti. But he is not telling that jnana marga alone is the path. Because bhakti himself, he has practiced bhakti to such a great extent. We find that even now in the various mathas of Shankaracharyas, each Shankaracharya has his own Ishta Devata, and they are worshipping the Ishta Devata. And only after the Ishta Darshana, they say that they have attained the Chitta Shuddhi or Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti, so as to do Atma Vichara or Brahma Vichara and attain Brahman. So it is not that he is telling you should not worship your Ishta. Advaita never says that. Advaita says that this is the first step. Chittasya shuddhaye karma nacha vastupalabdhaye vastu siddhi vicharena nacha karma koti bihi. Whatever karma you are doing is for your chitta shuddhi. But here the karma, what he is meaning is the Vaidika karma, because at that time the Mimamsakas were fully engaged in the Vaidika karma or smarta karma, whatever the day-to-day karma they are doing. But it is not the teaching which Swami Vivekananda said. Swami Vivekananda, for him, karma, it is not karma at all. It is seva. When you are serving human beings with the idea that they are one with God, that every jiva is Shiva himself, as Sri Ramakrishna taught, Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva, it is not karma at all. Because the definition of karma itself is that it is done with ego and a selfish desire. Whatever you are doing with your ego and selfish desire for a karma phala, that is karma. And when that karma you are doing without any desire, nishkama karma, that leads to chitta shuddhi. That is what Shankaracharya says, chittasya shuddhaye karma. When you do nishkama karma, you attain chitta shuddhi. But vastu siddhi, the realization of Brahman, can happen only by vichara, atma vichara, or meditation, deep meditation. Because whatever karma you are doing, whether it is physical karma or even your sadhana, japa, dhyana, it is manasika karma. It has to be done with mind directed towards an object. Whether it is external object or a mental object, you are directing your mind towards an object. But Atma Jnana can happen only when the mind turns inwards, towards the Atman, towards the source, the pure consciousness. So, in Jnana, Atma Jnana or Atma Bodha, there cannot be any karma. The same thing Sri Ramakrishna says. He gives the example of a pregnant lady. As the months advance, her mother-in-law will go on reducing her work. And finally, when the child is born, she is fully engrossed with the child. She doesn't do any other work. What it means is that as we grow spiritually, as our mind becomes more and more pure, we attain Chitta Shuddhi, our mind will be indrawn and our external karma will slowly keep on dropping off. And finally, when the realization happens, Ishta Darshana happens, our mind is fully engrossed in the Ishta and the entire karma will drop off. That is the meaning. So, Chittasya Shuddhaye karma, nacha vastu palabdhaye, vastu siddhi vicharena, nacha karma koti bihi. And this is, even the Vedas mention, na karmana na prajaya dhanena, tyage naikena amritattva manashuhu. Neither by karma, nor by progeny, nor by na karmana na prajaya dhanena, nor by wealth, accumulation of wealth and material prosperity, you realize the truth. Only by tyaga, by giving up all these external things which are unnecessary for your realization. Whatever is necessary for your realization, you have to associate only with that. That is called satsanga. And give up all that is unnecessary, all that is kusanga, what is taking our mind towards the world, you give up that, that is called tyaga. And tyage naikena amritattva manashuhu. You realize that amritattva, your immortal nature. That was Shankara's teaching. And finally, the Shankara's whole work is living even today, even after 1200 years, 12 or 13 centuries later. Even now we find every corner of India is filled with the work of Shankaracharya. Every main temple, the 12 Jyotirlingas he established, the various mathas he established, even all the sannyasa sampradayas, they are learning, they study his bhashyas. And in various temples, the stotras written by Shankaracharya are chanted. When we go to Kashi Vishwanatha temple, we hear that beautiful stotra, Vishwanatha Ashtakam. Ganga tarangaramaniya jata kalapam gauri nirantara vibhushita vama bhagam narayana priyamananga madapaharam varanasi purapatim bhaja vishwanatham. In Annapurna temple, when we go, we hear the stotra written by Shankaracharya. Nityananda kari varabhaya kari saundarya ratna kari nirdhuta khila ghora pavana kari pratyaksha maheshwari praleya chalavangsha pavana kari kashi puradhishwari bhiksham dehi कृपावलंबन करी माता अन्नपूर्णेश्वरी. When Sri Ramakrishna told his disciples, including Swami Vivekananda, after giving them the gerua cloth as sannyasa, you go and do bhiksha. So the first they went to Holy Mother Sri Sharda Devi, who was staying at Nahabat, and chanted this shloka. Bhiksham dehi kripa valambana kari mata annapurneshwari. And Holy Mother Sharda Devi gave the first bhiksha to them. And in Kashi, Haridwar, wherever the Ganga arati goes on, that famous stotra written by Shankaracharya is sang. देवी सुरेश्वरी भगवती गंगे त्रिभुवनतारिणि तरलतरंगे शंकर मौली निवासिनि विमले मम मतिरास्तां तव पदकमले भागीरथि सुखदायिनि मात तव जलमहिमा निगमे ख्यात नाहं जाने तव महिमानं त्राहि कृपामयि मामज्ञानम्. So Shankaracharya said, so whatever you accept, a stone or a river or a tree or whatever you worship with full devotion, Shraddha, Nishtha, Bhakti, there itself God will manifest. It is depending on your Shraddha and devotion that God manifests, even in external objects or in your heart. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.